Hi, I'm Ramani and you're watching the Cup of Dreams here on Firstpost. Now, if you can faintly sort of catch the firecrackers still going off at the Dharamsala cricket stadium, I'm right outside it. You can see the sort of vantage view of the city. It's pitch dark here, it's very cold, but the news from here is that India has finally broken that New Zealand jinx of having lost consecutively to this side at ODI World Cups, and that's happened here at Dharamsala. What a venue to make this sort of a record. It's been quite a match, quite a day. In fact, we were all talking about how it was unfortunate that Hardik Pandya was not there with his side here. He picked up a slight injury and he's headed out to assess it and get it and figure it out further. But the news here, of course, from Dharamsala is that India has beaten New Zealand finally at an ODI World Cup, and that too by 4 wickets. It was a comprehensive win. A few hiccups in the middle there, but really not as much to bother them all too much. I think it was a clinical display that was set up perfectly by the bowlers. You wanted a bowler who would exploit those conditions really well. So there was a lot of talk of Mohammed Shami possibly coming into this playing 11 for this particular match against New Zealand. But if that had to happen, they would need to back up the batter and pad up that, because Hardik is an all-rounder, proper all-rounder. So you needed that extra batter in that lineup. So there was obviously a lot of talk of Mohammed Shami and Surya Kumar making it to the 11 in place of Hardik and a Shardul Thakur, and that's what happened today. And India, the toss went its way, and that was crucial too. That was another very important aspect of the match and the way things panned out, because in these conditions, with the dew coming in, bowling second always a little tricky. But I think the kind of bowling that India put up in the first innings was what set up the win for them so beautifully. Mohammed Shami coming in with a player of the match performance, taking a fifer there. Quite a clinical performance by someone like Mohammed Shami, waiting in the wings for quite a long time, especially in the start of India's first phase of India's campaign. To have someone like Mohammed Shami, the caliber of Mohammed Shami and what he brings to the table, not being able to find a place in the 11, it was a little unfortunate, but he made his presence felt in the very first match that he appeared in this World Cup at Dharamsala against a very, very formidable looking New Zealand side. So what's happened with this win, just before we get into a lot of the details of how the match panned out, is that the points table is where the big difference is what's taken place. India has solidified its position at the top of the points table with 10 points, 5 out of 5. They're undefeated now in the tournament. New Zealand has tasted its first defeat, and that too at the hands of India for the first time in a very, very long time, since 2003, if I'm right. They have both very, very good net run rates, so that's good. South Africa with that win at the 3rd position, and Australia with that win over Pakistan in number 4. So that's the top 4. And in fact, New Zealand's next 3 matches are very formidable ones against Pakistan, Australia, and possibly, and yes, South Africa too. So that's very, very key matchups. We will come to that. We're going back to the match itself, and that first innings is what we were referring to earlier. The one that the bowlers set up very, very well for India. Devon Conway would be very disappointed with the way his performance went today, not opening the account and going back in. There was a little bit of a Will Young looked like he would solidify this stance with Rachin Ravindra, but he departed early too. So having lost 2 wickets at the score of just 19, there was a lot of consolidation work that was required by New Zealand, and that happened with Daryl Mitchell and Rachin Ravindra. I think this was the phase that they would be most pleased about, of stabilizing the innings. They do that really well. They did that against Afghanistan as well. The middle order really stepping up and delivering. So that's one thing that they would really be very happy about in this particular match. But what the most disappointed that they would be is the latter part, the death overs, where they really had to capitalize, hit the pedal, go hard, and at least reach 300. Any total above 300, 320 would have been really pertinent, would have been really quite threatening in these conditions in this particular match. Daryl Mitchell really came out probably scoring one of his best hundreds. It was only his 5th in ODI cricket, and what a knock it was. I think that was a very, very key performance, and coming in and scoring 100. Rachin Ravindra did not end up scoring a century, but his 75 was crucial. That partnership with Daryl Mitchell really took the game away from India a little bit. They put the pressure on the spinners, who in effect have been the key contributors for India in those middle overs. Someone like a Kuldeep and Jadeja really have been instrumental in putting the brakes on all of their oppositions in that phase. In fact, even this score isn't one of the top scores of any opposition against India. So one thing that they've really succeeded in is sort of stifling the opposition batting, especially in that middle overs and right at the death. I'm going to come to the death in a bit, but Kuldeep really had been unsettled in this time. They really took the attack to Kuldeep. I think that was one of the key phases that New Zealand really nailed. And this was the phase that they were really looking good to reach that score of 300. But that wicket, once Rachin Ravindra departed, you had Tom Latham coming in. I think that phase when Tom Latham also went back quickly after scoring just 5 runs is what really pulled that scoring rate down quite dramatically. Even someone like Daryl Mitchell, who was looking really good and settled there, wasn't going for those top shots. We saw some beautiful hits by Daryl Mitchell when he was really on song. That 6 that sort of thumped on the right on top of our box when we were sitting in the media box. You could hear the thump of the ball landing on top of the stadium. Some really spectacular hits from Daryl Mitchell, but didn't really show that impetus towards the end when it was really required. I think the last 10 overs is again a very commendable phase that India trumped in. If you broke that innings into phases, the middle overs belong to New Zealand, but the death overs, which is where you want to put the accelerator and get those extra runs, get those 20-30 runs that really make the difference in a venue like Dharamsala, when you know there's a bit of dew, things can slow down, under lights, you know you're under pressure to chase. I think that was where New Zealand lost the game. And fantastic bowling. And you're talking about Mohammed Shami's fifer, you've got to talk about Jasprit Bumrah. He came back with figures of 1 for 45, but really clinical bowling towards the end, where he just tied them all up. Someone like Glenn Phillips really not doing much in this scenario. Mark Chapman, Mitchell Santner, Matt Henry, all not really putting up any fight or any resistance. And that period is where New Zealand may have rued not being able to add a little more to put the pressure on the Indian bowlers, and later on, of course, by that extension, on the Indian batting. 273 is what they managed to get to. A 274 in these conditions, with that famed Indian batting lineup, with the kind of form that Rohit Sharma is in, someone like even Shubman Gill, and of course a Virat Kohli, you couldn't really put this as something that would trouble them all too much. But we always thought, with the kind of experienced, tenacious bowling attack that New Zealand boasts of, there was always going to be game on if there was a few mishaps or few miscommunication, a few niggles, hiccups in the Indian batting lineup. They started pretty confidently with Rohit Sharma and Shubman Gill, and they looked so good. Rohit Sharma really reminding us time and again why he's such a classy batter. The way he flicked some of those deliveries, just elegant, effortless stroke making, some big shots there. He hit 4 sixes, and incredible sixes those. He even took the attack to someone like Trent Bolt, just effortlessly putting him and dispatching these guys who are quality bowlers. He looked really good to go on and onto a big score. A very unfortunate dismissal, dragging it onto his stumps a bit when he got out. Not the way you would expect someone like Rohit Sharma, looking good at 46 out of 40, to have gotten himself out. So that was a little disappointing. Virat Kohli then came in, and that was a Virat Kohli show. You were expecting for a massive knock from him. He loves this ground. He's the Indian to have scored the highest individual score in this particular venue against West Indies. So you know that he loves these conditions. There was a weird phase also in between when the fog suddenly came in. You had misty clouds swirling just getting gathered right above the entire ground and settling there for a while. No one really could see much. It was very hazy, and that period, and probably it was the first time that a match got paused and play got stopped. Play was suspended briefly because of a fog. It got a little cloudy, misty, foggy for a while there when you couldn't really see much, and it was very hazy out there. So play was suspended for a bit, but that didn't bother the concentration of Virat when he came back on. A brief partnership with Shreyas Iyer, who was looking really good. 33 of 29, 6 fours. He was looking pretty good, but Bolt really sending him back there. KL Rahul and Virat Kohli. KL Rahul wouldn't be very happy with the way he got out, but Mitchell Santner, what a delivery there. He was confident even after that delivery, appealing, reviewing it. He was absolutely spot on with that DRS referral, and it went his way. So that was a little disappointing. And again, sort of paused the way and the flow of the Indian batting lineup for a brief part at that moment. When Surya Kumar came in, you knew that they weren't too far behind. Kohli was inching towards his 100, and that 100, of course, would mean him equaling Sachin Tendulkar's record of the most ODI centuries of 49. So the crowd was expecting it. It was all building up to that moment. Then that unfortunate Surya Kumar dismissal, which was a run out, a bit of a miscommunication there. They wouldn't be too happy with these things. I think these are the little things that you want to iron out as you move ahead in this tournament and get into a very important phase. Things that how you would tackle certain situations, certain phases. Ideally, the match should have been closed out right there, but that dismissal not required, putting that added pressure on someone like Ravindra Jadeja, who was coming, the last recognized batter and the last recognized batting pair, because we don't have a Hardik. The tail almost sort of beginning there with Shami coming in right after, Kuldeep, Bumrah, Siraj. No one to bat there. You still had a Kohli. And it was a little tense moments there. Everyone sort of on the edge as Kohli was on 95 and they were all counting down. Jadeja refused to take a single and gave the strike at the end of the penultimate end of the over that they finished in, and he gave the strike to Kohli. Everyone was a little restless, probably Virat as well, a little bit on edge. He wanted to get that 100. You had the same number of runs to reach his 100 and the same number of runs required for India to win. And everyone was expecting that big hit to come, or even a boundary and then possibly a single or another boundary to see the match off and to get his 100. But unfortunately, he lost he mistimed one, and Glenn Phillips pouching it. Matt Henry dismissing Virat Kohli for 95. A tad unfortunate that, because he really built up the tempo so well to get to that 100. But the larger news, and that's what I think everyone would go back thinking and saying, it wasn't important. The century wasn't as important as that win. Though there is that one aspect of them having not faltered just yet, and you're coming to that business end of the tournament. We do talk about how every team needs to pace itself. You want that one miss in some sense so that you get your act together. You get a few other gaping holes that are revealed, which you wouldn't want to come on a knockout day. So a lot of teams always want that one odd day out of the calendar, out of the window in a tournament like a World Cup, where you wouldn't want something that's waiting to go off or a miss to happen at a knockout stage. So that's the only thing that would, but if you're on a good note, if you're doing well, you're having a great camaraderie, the team is looking good, the energy is nice, people are smiling, you are happy and enjoying each other's success, everyone's having a ball. We had Shreyas Iyer also taking that stunning catch in the first innings, and again indicating that he's going to be the best fielder of the day. You've got that thing going around in the dressing room for the Indian team where they always pick a best fielder after every match day, and that's getting all of them together. They put out a video earlier where Shubman Gill was asking Rohit Sharma very casually, do we ever, why are we losing to New Zealand? Why don't we ever beat them in an ODI World Cup encounter? So you've got an energy, and you're seeing an atmosphere in a dressing room that doesn't have any filter. They're comfortable in matters that do not necessarily give you comfort. They're saying things in jest. They're having some laughs. They're enjoying each other's company. You've got a lot of youngsters there who are getting a good energy going. So this is a team that's looking really good. There's something special happening. Don't want to say these things at the start. No one wants to hear, things that, and and probably say these things way before something good or something happens. So obviously everyone's looking good. Even New Zealand, I don't think they would be all too displeased with this loss. They did get a few things right there. They would be a little disappointed with the way they batted, particularly in the last 10 overs. And maybe things just got a little out of hand while they were bowling. But with the way that Virat Kohli or Rohit Sharma really bats, there's much little that you can do as a fielding unit. Of course, there was a lot of there were a few things that you could also notice regarding that outfield and regarding some of those patches in the ground. It was bothering some of the fielders there from both the sides. There was a little hesitancy, but you did see New Zealand particularly doing well in the second innings, where they were diving, they were stopping, they were really trying to build that pressure up. I think they would be very happy with that. They didn't take 273 to be a daunting score or to be a score after a couple of wickets to try and sit back on their hunches and relax. They were at it. They were coming in hard. They were trying to dive, cut off even a single. They didn't want Kohli to get off strike or Kohli to come on strike and get, because we all know what a busy cricketer Kohli is. He loves to keep taking those singles and twos, and they kept the pressure up. So kudos to them. A lot of positives for even a team like New Zealand to take forward. But if I had to just wrap this up and tell you exactly where these two teams head next, what's the schedule like for both India and New Zealand? The next fixture for New Zealand is against Australia, the Tasmanian rivals. That's a big one. That's happening on the 27th. It's a Saturday. Beg your pardon. It's 28th. It's the 27th match on the 28th of October on the Saturday, right here in Dharamsala. So they have some days off to take in the atmosphere here, to take in nature. It's a beautiful city, to calm yourselves down, to try and get things and get a perspective in place to tackle your next challenge. So good for them. They aren't traveling and they have a few days to recuperate, recalibrate, and come back stronger against a team like Australia that suddenly found its feet again, and they're looking strong too. So that's going to be a great contest. For India, they are having the match right the very next day. It's a Sunday again, 29th October. There's a bit of travel. They head to Lucknow to play England. That's also something that, again, a must-win match for England that had a horrid outing, an outing that they would want to forget against South Africa, losing by a massive margin there in Mumbai, trying to chase down 399, 400 runs. That was that's something that they will look to overturn, and that happens with their matchup against India. That's what's happening now. So if I go back to the points table to wrap things up, India at number 1, New Zealand, South Africa, Australia, that's your top 4. Pakistan, Bangladesh, Netherlands, Sri Lanka, England, and Afghanistan. Who would have thought England, the defending champions, would find themselves sitting at the number 9 spot, and they have the team to beat lined up against them next up in Lucknow. So that's the latest then here from Dharamsala and from the Cup of Dreams coverage here. Of course, you keep watching us for more such analysis. I'm going to meet you from another city tomorrow at 7 p.m. That's Chandigarh, on the way back to get back to base. And till then, of course, keep following all our coverage here, not just on First Sports Cup of Dreams, but also all the analysis, side stories, the features, and everything we're bringing to you from our First Sports coverage. Thanks so much for joining in. Have a good night.